continuing on from the previous video, we already went over our interface and we went over our logic. So now let's go ahead and get started with some HTML and some CSS to actually make this stuff come to fruition. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and I'm going to open up brackets. You can use any text editor you want. I just happen to be using brackets because it's pretty simple and it's straightforward. If you want to download brackets and you don't have an IDE of your own, you can use Notepad++ if you want. You can use the text editor that comes with Windows. But you can also just go ahead and download brackets right here at brackets.io. And you can go ahead and get started doing the exact same thing that I'm doing in the exact same way. And I have brackets open here. We'll get started building our web site. So we're going to go ahead and create a folder. So I'm going to right click here and I'm going to create new folder. And I'm going to call this the cave. Inside of that folder, I can go ahead and right click and add myself a new file. And I'm going to name this file cave. Normally you would name it index, but I'm just going to call it cave.html, the first page. So this is fine. Now let's go ahead and type out some of our HTML. I'm going to go ahead and start off with my HTML5 tag, even though we may not get started with HTML5, so that's going to help us not have to worry about doing this later. Now I type my first HTML tag. Now don't really worry about whether you know what I'm doing or not. Just go ahead and first type it out and then we'll go over some of this stuff. Okay, so whenever you're building a website or a web page, you're going to first start it off not necessarily with this head. You're going to first start it off with what's called the HTML tag. Now the reason why I started off with the head, because I want to show you something. I want to show you how the tags, they must have a beginning and end tag. So when I first started this tag here, you can see how this tag, it says head. This tag also says head, but this one has this slash in there, which tells me that these two tags are connected. If I were to take something off of this, then my code will not work. I have to make sure that the tag is open and closed whenever I'm dealing with anything. And I did this backwards so you can see how I can add this head tag inside of an HTML5 or HTML tag, which will encapsulate everything. As you can see here, I have my HTML tag. So what I want to do is have this inside of this. So everything, for now, everything, okay, just for now, everything will have an opening and closing tag. If we run into those things that don't have that, I'll go ahead and point that out. But for right now, just assume that everything has an opening and closing tag, and everything will be within these HTML tags. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type out my skeleton here and pause the video and then come back and let you go ahead and copy that. Give me a second. So here's what we have now. We have our HTML tag, opening and closing tag. We have our head tag, which is where all of our titles and our let's say our CSS tags and our JavaScript will go. Then we have our body, and this is what everyone's going to see when the web page opens up. And inside the body we have something called a div, but every div has an opening and closing tag. And if you notice, there's something special inside of this div. If you look here, I put this class back in there. And this name is anything you want. This is why it's in quotes, because it's just a string. It's not a special name. I just called it back. And what I mean is by the background. So let's go ahead and look at how this will look inside the web page. So all I need to do over here is right click on the name of the file I just made. And I want to go ahead and open this up, show in Explorer. And it's going to open up where this file is. And here it is here. And as you can see, it's inside the cave folder. So I can double click that because it is an HTML tag on there. And when I double click that, I basically get this. The top here says tutorial. And the reason why it says that, because here I have two tags. And the reason why I did this is so you can see that it's going to take this first tag and ignore this second tag. If I wanted this inside of here, I would have to put it inside that tag. So this will show you there can only be one head tag, one body tag, and one HTML tag, and one title tag. So if I wanted something extra down here, I wouldn't use body tags or anything like that. I'll use tags like divs to go ahead and create new things. Now divs you can have as many tags of those as you want. All the other tags you can have as many as you want. But just keep in mind that HTML, head, title, and body are all the ones that can't be duplicated. So if I were to take this off and then hit save, and now I'm going to come back here and refresh this, you'll see how now the title tag says what I thought it should say. I just need to go ahead and put a space in here, and then I'm going to save it again by hitting Control S. I come back over here and hit refresh. So while this does have a class called back, it doesn't really do anything for right now. It's just a class name, so I'm not really using it right now. Just understand that it's something that we're going to use later in CSS. Now, speaking of CSS, let's go ahead and put some CSS in here. And we already know, as I said before, where the CSS goes. We can put the CSS right here in the head. And the way we do that is we make another tag called styles. Not all caps. Or style. And then I'm going to close the style tag. And now whatever I put in between these styles, the style tag, will actually work within the context of my page. So to demonstrate how styles work, what I want to do is add some information here inside of my page. So I'm going to go inside my body, the body tag, because that's where everything is going to show up on the website. I'm going to put myself a P tag here and a closing P tag. Then I'm going to say hello world. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to go back over here and refresh, and as we can see, hello world over here. Now, with this P tag, this is a special HTML tag. There's a ton of special HTML tags. The P, the div, the body, all these other things. Meaning, when I access them, all I need to do is call out their name. So, in my styles tag, all I need to do is call out the name of the thing that I want to be able to address. So here all I have to do is say is P, and then I'll make an opening and closing curly bracket, and then right after that curly bracket, I'm going to go ahead and go inside the curly bracket. Now you'll notice I make the curly brackets first. So then I go inside the curly bracket to write whatever I'm going to write. And the reason why I make that a habit is because when you start making a bunch of styles and a bunch of code, you might make a mistake and forget the final curly bracket. But because you already know you're going to need that, you might as well just put it there and just start typing on the inside. So now I can access anything in the P tag, meaning anything in my web page from body all the way to body down here that has one of these tags, this is going to affect it. So I can go inside of this P tag, and let's say I did something like background color. And as I start typing, because I have everything written properly, you can see brackets is starting to help me out. And it notices that I want to access the background color, so I can go ahead and do that. And if I click on the colon, it will give me access to a list of colors that I can use. So I'm going to hit, let's say beige, and I'm going to hit enter. And then in order to finish this sentence, I'm going to hit the semicolon and then hit save. And now I go back here and refresh, and as you can see, the background color to that P tag has a color in the background. I can add more styles than this, and they don't have to be in order like this. This format is not part of the code, meaning I can go down a level and push this down a level and start adding more styles. For instance, maybe I want the font size to be something like 35 pixels, and semicolon, and hit save. And I'll come back over here, and as you can see, the font size is 35 pixels. And this will happen to anything with a P tag. Let me give you an example of that. I'm gonna go here, and right after this div, I am going to put another P tag there, and I'm gonna say hello world again, hit save, refresh. And as you can see, anything with a P tag has the color to it. Now, this class attribute has a sibling that does almost the same thing, or pretty much the same thing, and it's called ID. The only difference between an ID and a class is that classes can be on many things, whereas an ID is only on that one thing. So if I were to go here and say ID here, enter there, and I gave this an ID of hello2, now I can access this ID inside the styles. So just like I did with that P, I'm just going to format this just a little up more so that way we can have more space. So I'm now going to access this ID here. And then what I'm going to do is take this right here, this P tag. I'm going to put another one inside of this div. So you can see I have an open div here and a closed div here. Put it right inside of there. And I'm going to say hello world inside the div. And I'm going to save that. And I just want to see how that looks over here. So I'm going to save it and refresh it. So I have one inside the div, one outside the div, and then hello world again. And that's outside the div at the bottom. So let me format this so you can see it a little bit better. So this is what we have. All right. So I have this with an ID, this with a class, and this is just a P tag. And we already accessed the P tag. So let's look at how we can access the class. In order to access a class, you have to start the name off with a dot, and then you put the class name. It's that simple. And I can open and close those brackets. And now from here, I can change the background color to something completely different. So let me say background. And I'm going to scroll down the color and hit enter. And I'm going to change that to a different color. And I'm going to semicolon that and hit save. And now I'm going to refresh this. And what you'll see here is that even though I'm accessing the back and this background color is aqua, this class is not it can't override this P tag. But if I were to take this P tag out of here and hit save and refresh, now you see that now the background tag takes on its style. So this is why it's called cascading style sheets, is because the information is coming from high to low. So if you had something up here that made the color beige and then something down here that tried to make the color something else, well, it's already beige. So it cascades down this way. And this is why when I initially had the P's here, hit save, refresh, that first style overrides this style here. So this is why the class, I can take this out here, works when I take the P off, because no longer am I using P, I'm only accessing the class, and then when I hit refresh, there it is. So the way we access IDs is a little bit different. It's basically, I have to add, instead of a dot or period, I have to add a hashtag, and then I put the name of the style, or the name of the ID right here. And that one's called hello2. And again, open and close, all that's exactly the same. And now I can go ahead and do whatever I want inside of this style. Again, I'm just going to change the background color for now, just so it can be consistent. And I'm going to change that to something like red. Firebrick red looks good. I'm going to hit semicolon there, hit save, and I will go refresh here. And as you can see, this turns red, and this one turns, each one of them have their own color based off of us having accessed them through either a class, an ID, or just accessing the tag itself. So one more example, if I were to go here and I were to have myself another div. Remember, you can have as many divs as you want, and I gave it an ID of title. And then I close that div. So I have an opening and closed div, and I can say the cave game. Hit save. Once I do that, I hit refresh, and as you can see, I have this cave game here. I have this ID here, which I haven't used, but if I were to take the ID and bring it up here, this is a class ID, and this is how we access the regular IDs. I'm gonna go, and normally you don't want these capitalized, so I'm gonna make this lowercase. And then I'm going to open and close that. And now I can go ahead and add myself another background color. And I'm going to save that, come back over here, refresh, and you can see that work there. So now let's get to the point to where we're actually starting to work with our game concept. So what we need to do is we need to start making it look like this. So we're going to need a div here, we're going to need a div here, a div here, a div here, and possibly this should be a div also, and maybe one at the top. But let's get these doors down first. We're going to make the divs for that, and then we'll move on. So I'm going to remove most of these here. I'm going to remove all these styles here. And then I am going to remove these test divs. I'm just going to go ahead and have myself a blank body here. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and start changing the back and then adding the doors. So in order to change the back, I want to first fix this style of here. I want to change that to adding the type of style there is. So I'm going to add type there, and then in the type, in the type I'm going to put text/CSS, just so that the compiler, the browser, knows what kind of type this is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to type it out and then restart the video. All right, so far, here's what we have. We have a div here, the opening and closing tag div here. We have a p tag here. We have another div tag here, and inside the div, what I did was I gave each div an ID, and each ID has to be different, like I said before. So this ID is the west door, the east door, the north door, and the south door. And then when I look over here to our diagram, so when I'm looking at my diagram, that's exactly what we wanted to have. So I have each one of those doors there. And right now, I'm just putting this button click so I can structure it first. This is going to be something like this. It's not going to be in place initially because we haven't done the CSS. But and then I have down here this info box, which I'm thinking is going to be this right here. And right now, I don't have anything in it. And all that's encapsulated into this background div, or I call it back div. If I were to save this and refresh, you'll see it looks nothing like it because we haven't gotten to the CSS yet. But yet, I have all the components here. And this is how most of your web pages are going to start. You get the structure down first, and then you worry about the CSS later. Okay, so in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to style this so it can look something like the game that we intended to make. So, but for right now, you have a pretty good understanding of what we've been doing here in HTML and how to set it up so we can use it in CSS to make it look like what we want it to look like in our game. I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time. There's actually another really cool website that you're able to use called LiveWeave. So it's liveweave.com. When you go to this website, what you'll see is pretty cool because basically they're giving you the full stack that you need, especially to do what we're doing. So let's say you're working in HTML5, JavaScript, and over here is your CSS. And over here is a live preview of exactly what you're building. So if I were to go over here and I were to change this LiveWeave to, let's say, the cave game. As you can see over here, it's actually changing everything exactly how I assumed it should. And if I were to go over here and I'm going to change this right here, so I'm going to add another style to this. It has IntelliSense that helps me. And as you can see, it's showing up right here. But this is a really good website that you're able to use. And if you want to go ahead and follow along with this one, just be aware it may not download exactly the same. So this is why I'm just sticking to brackets.